Indian fever. You can be part of the fun. You're the winner at every game. That's where the excitement begins. So catch Indian fever. Be a believer with the Cleveland Indians.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first podcast of the 2019 year, January 2nd, 2019. I'm your host, Tim Shirer, publisher and sports editor of the Lake County Sentinel. You can get a hold of us on Twitter at Lake County Sentinel.com or at Sports Sentinel on Twitter, or you can get a hold of us on on Facebook at Lake County Sentinel. Or you could check out the news, including the Cavs game, the Cavs story tonight. They play the Heat. After the game ends, you could check out the story at www.lakecountysentinel.com. Our beat writer, Stone Lexington, does a fabulous job covering the Cavs. He's the longest tenured beat writer covering the Cavs. He's been our beat reporter covering the Cavs now for 11 seasons. He does a fantastic job. He's a real insider with the Cavaliers, and he does a great job. So check out that game story tonight after the game. They play the Heat, and that's our first item on the list tonight, the Cavs playing the Heat. Tonight, starting in about 8 minutes, I would say. The Cavs are 8-29. And in last place in the East, worst record in the NBA. And the Miami Heat are 17-18. They are 7th in the Eastern Conference. And right now, if the season ended today, they'd be a playoff team. Tristan Thompson looks like he's going to play tonight. And that'll be a huge return for the Cavs. Having Thompson back. There have been some rumors lately that Kevin Love is close to returning. There also are some rumors that the Cavs have been approached about some trades with Love. I don't know how true that is. I have mixed feelings whether to trade Love or not. My opinion is if they trade Kevin Love, they better get 2 first-round picks in return if they trade him, because that's what he's worth. So, but Tristan Thompson returns tonight. That should help. Let's see if they can get a victory at home tonight against the Heat, and then you can read about it on LakeCountySentinel.com after the game, www.LakeCountySentinel.com, the game story by our beat writer, Stone Lexington. Let's move on now. The Cleveland Monsters have been off. They're off until Saturday, when they'll be at home against the Utica Comets. The Monsters are currently tied for second place in the Northern Division of the American League, and they have a 17-11 record, 39 points. Utica is in third place. They're 17-16-2, and they have 37 points. The game is at 1 o'clock at the Q on Saturday. Go out and support the Monsters. They're pretty good this year. They got a good shot this year at contending for the Calder Cup. Of course, they won it in 2016. It would be nice to see them bring it back to Cleveland again. And then we'll move on to the Cleveland the Mentor Icebreakers. They're in action on Friday in Watertown, New York, against Watertown, and they are 6-16. They have 18 points. They're in last place in the Franklin Hockey League. They're playing Watertown, who is 12-8 and has 40 points, and is in second place in the Franklin Hockey League. The independent hockey is very interesting. The more I hear about it, it's interesting. And the league, I guess the Franklin Hockey League, has a lot of turnover in teams. So it'll be interesting to see how long the Icebreakers can survive in Mentor. Hopefully it'll be a long time, but you never know. I hear the crowds have been about 400 a game. That's not overly exciting, or I don't know if that can pay salaries, but we'll see. But they're, like I said, they're in action Friday night in Watertown against Watertown, and they are in last place in the league. But when they come back home, go out and support the Mentor Icebreakers. Support the local Lake County hockey team. Why not? I don't see any reason why you wouldn't. Now we're going to move on to a subject that amazes me. Of course, we have this subject in Cleveland every couple of years. So, it never changes, really. The narrative never changes. But the Browns coaching search, best job in sports, Jim Donovan, best job tonight on Channel 3. Best job, he says. Well, he might be right. It probably is one of the better coaching jobs available at this point, if Jimmy Haslam stays out of it. But he gives such false hype. Okay. He was talking about Dan Campbell, who is the Saints tight end and assistant head coach. And he said, Dan Campbell is being interviewed and is a good candidate. Because Dan Campbell was the interim head coach, when Joe Philbin was fired in Miami. And he did a great job. He did a great job, Jim said. Okay? He did. He did a great job. He was 5-7. That's a great job? How is 5-7 a great job? Is it because, well, there's a good chance the Browns might hire him? So Jim, the ultimate Browns honk, has to make it like Campbell did a great job in case the Browns hire him. Don't worry. If the Browns don't hire Campbell, Jim will say, well, he wasn't that great of a candidate anyway. The Dolphins were 7-9, 8-8, 8-8 under Philbin, and then he was fired after they started out 1-3. So they were 5-7 under Campbell. That's not great. They did what they did the last 3 years. Actually, a little worse. And then they were better the next year under Adam Gase. If Campbell did such a great job, how come he didn't get the full-time position? And how come they improved by 4 games the next season under Adam Gase? Makes me wonder. It's the typical Jim Donovan hype machine. Every candidate that the Browns interview is amazing until they don't hire him, and then he wasn't good enough. It's the typical hype that Jim Donovan does, and the fans just fall for every time. They fall for it every time. And they sound like him too. If you read posts on social media, they sound just like Jim Donovan. They find one positive about the guy. Let's ignore the 15 negatives maybe. And I'm not saying Dan Campbell's not a good candidate, but it just struck me. It's the same old thing from Jim Donovan, saying that he did a great job as the Dolphins interim head coach, yet he was under 500. And they were a 500 team the year before. So it's not like the Greg Williams situation where the Browns were horrible and won 4 games under Hugh Jackson, or 3 games under Hugh Jackson, and tied one, in 40 games. And then he came in and led them to a 6-7 record, or 5-3 record as interim head coach. They were over 500 with him. That's a great job. I thought Greg Williams did a great job as Browns interim head coach. He was over 500. Okay, here is a shock to you Browns fans. A great job is when your team finishes over 500. All right? Not when you finish just close to 500. When you finish over. When you win more games than you lose. That is a good or great job. Not when you are under 500. That is not a great job. No matter what your supreme leader, Jim Donovan, tells you, that is not a great job. Okay? Yeah, Jim Donovan has more viewers than me. Jim Donovan has more listeners than me. But Jim Donovan's also been on the air for over 30 years. So, of course, he's going to have more. With that being said, he's full of crap. Okay? He's nothing but a hype machine for the Browns. And they know he's going to hype everything they do. They know it. So if you want to continue to believe him, go ahead. I don't think Dan Campbell's the choice. I think they should stick with Greg Williams. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to stick with that. I think they should stick with Greg Williams. And I'll tell you this. Everybody knows that I'm a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. I'll say this. If the Browns don't hire Greg Williams, Tampa Bay better interview him the next day. Because I like the discipline the guy brings. And Tampa Bay needs discipline. They better hire a coach that's a disciplinarian. I want to see them hire a defensive guy. I think it could go either way with the Browns, defensive or offensive. But I feel like Jimmy Haslam loves offensive guys. So I feel like he's going to win out and they're going to hire an offensive guy. But we'll see. Hopefully John Dorsey gets to pick and, he'll do. But let's remember this, too. John Dorsey has never picked a head coach, ever. John Dorsey has never hired a head coach, ever. Ever. Didn't hire Andy Reid in Kansas City. Okay? So, but let's end the sports portion tonight, with I guess it's an uplifting story, but it of course it ended sadly yesterday. Purdue superfan, 20-year-old Tyler Trent passed away yesterday after his battle with cancer. What a brave young man he was. He inspired me every time I saw him and every time I heard him talk. He's just a brave young man. And it's very sad. And I honestly, truly believe, and I'll always believe this, that Ohio State lost that game to Purdue, that it was divine intervention. They won that game that night for Tyler Trent. There's no way Purdue beats Ohio State 49-20. But somehow on that night, in that situation, they did. And it made this young man very happy. He's forever a Purdue football captain, and that can't be taken away. So as we end the sports segment of our show tonight, I just want to give my condolences to his parents. I can't imagine their grief. I can't. But I also want to say, rest in peace, Tyler. You inspired a lot of us. Welcome back to the second half of the Lake County Sentinel Podcast for January 2nd, 2019, our first podcast of the new year. We have several issues to talk about tonight, and we're going to start with the Mitt Romney's comments. We'll start with the comments made by Mitt Romney. Mitt ran for president. Romney ran for president in 2012, and he lost to Obama. He lost to President Obama. President Obama was ultimately reelected. So, yeah, he lost. But he ran a pretty respectful campaign. He respects things. He respects people. I bring this up because he had a editorial today that basically said that Donald Trump doesn't deserve the office of presidency because he doesn't respect people, and he lies. And of course, he's getting a lot of flack from Republicans who still stand by Donald Trump. This could all fall down around Donald Trump within the next couple of weeks. With when Mueller's investigation ends, if it ends in the next couple of weeks, when it ends, it could all fall apart for Trump. And are these people still going to stick by him then? I highly doubt it, and they'll act like they never did. But they're ready to attack Mitt Romney now and say that he's wrong. Mitt Romney is absolutely, positively right about what he's saying about Donald Trump. He is unfit for the office. He does not deserve to be president of the United States. He is bringing shame to the office. And of course, Trump, in typical Trump fashion, ripped Romney. He lost. I didn't. If he had been as tough on Obama as he's been on me, he would have beat Obama. Well, he doesn't know that. But of course, he never says anything that's factual. Nothing. I don't think the guy has said a factual thing in his life. And I love today. I'm listening to him today, and he's talking about the border wall. And that leads us to the government shutdown, which is still continuing, that he said he would take blame for before it happened. But now that it's happened, it's not his fault. It's the Democrats' fault. But this is the guy he's talking about. We've already started construction on the border wall. Of course, we haven't paid them. We don't pay them until they're done, until the job is done right. We got to make sure it's done right. Kind of like in the casinos where the guys, did work for him, the contractors, and then he didn't pay them. He stiffed them. Kind of like that. I guess I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to be one of these contractors working for any project that he's in charge of, his border wall. They'll be lucky to get paid. These people will be lucky to get paid for building this wall, if anything's actually happening with it, which I highly doubt. I mean, you can't believe a word that comes out of the guy's mouth. So why are you going to really believe that the border wall is being built? It's not. It's not being built. Probably isn't being built. And if it is being built, I would make sure I got my money if I was the people who are building it. Because, he does like to stiff contractors. He doesn't care about the people that are out of work. He doesn't care about the other government people that are out of work. Don't let him fool you for a second. All he wants to do is try to make good on his campaign promise, even if it's bad for the country. It's not about border security. If anybody really believes it's about border security, they're crazy. I've said over and over again on this program what it's about, and it's about skin color. Because if it wasn't about skin color, he would be fighting for a wall at the Canadian border also. But he is not. Okay? He is not. All right. It's all about skin color. He is a racist, just like his followers. And that's it. There's not really any, there's no other way to put it. There's no reason to explain that any further. It is about skin color. The border fight, the border wall fight. It's all about skin color. If Mexicans were white, he wouldn't want a border at the wall, but they're not. So he wants a border at the wall, a wall at the border. Canadians, for the most part, are white. So he is not concerned about a border wall with Canada, even though the 9/11 terrorists came through Canada. Even though drugs flow through the Canadian border every day. But we're not going to worry about the Canadian border because the majority of their people are white. Don't tell me it's not about race. It is all about race. If your skin, this is the Trump and his supporters' thoughts. If you have brown skin, you are bad. If you have white skin, you are good. That's how they think. Let's move on. He's worried about the campaign border wall promise. He really is. He's worried about that. He said it today. He's really worried about that. He's got to keep that promise to his hateful followers. He has to. He's got to keep those guys out, those people out. But he seems to have forgotten his campaign promise to lower prescriptions. Okay. Today begins the 2019, or yesterday. He promised during the campaign that he would lower prescription costs. He would lower prescription costs. Well, because of new regulations and new laws that make it easier for the big pharmaceutical companies, prescription prices as of January 1st were raised 6.3%. They'll go up 6.3%. Well, that's a nice cut. If you can't do math and you don't understand that a rate increase is not cutting prices. Okay? The last time I looked, when a price went up, I'm not getting a break. I'm getting screwed. So I hope some of his supporters have to pay higher prescription prices. You voted for him. You believed his lies. So now you got to pay for it. I don't know. I don't feel bad for you. You believed his lies. You absolutely 100% believed his lies. So don't complain when you have to pay higher prescriptions. Because you believed him. You believed everything that he told you. Therefore, you voted for him. You voted for him because he had your same racial views. Okay? And don't, if you're still supporting this guy and you said you only voted for him because you didn't like Hillary Clinton, no. If that was the case, you still wouldn't be supporting him. You would admit that he's a nut and you would not support him anymore. The people that voted for him because they didn't like Hillary, I would say the majority of them have realized, oops, we screwed up. Yeah, we didn't like Hillary, but this guy's a nut. I think the majority of them have realized that. And here it is. A lot of senior citizens voted for him. They vote Republican. That's just what it is. And now he's raising prescription prices on you. How about that? How about that? So, I mean, what has he done good? What has he done? What has he done well? What has he done right that has helped you? What has he done? I want to know. I don't think he has done anything that's helped you. I think he's done some things that have hurt you. Many things. He's put our country at risk more than helped us. But you're blind to that. You know, our defense isn't stronger with him because he doesn't listen to the generals. He doesn't listen to the people that know what they're talking about. He thinks he knows more than them. And he told you that on the campaign, and you still voted for the guy. You still voted for a guy who was never in the military, but said he knows more than the generals. My God, wasn't that a signal that this guy might be crazy a little bit? I don't know. It was to me. And look, I'm not a genius, but I know an idiot when I see one, and he's an idiot. Except for the fact he knew who he could get to vote for him and the dumb things he'd have to say to get you to vote for him. So maybe he isn't an idiot after all when it comes to getting people to support his crazy ideas. Sounds like the 1930s in Europe to me. So we're going to finish today with the stock market. The market shot up today. I mean, it shot up 18.86 points. Man, what a bull market today. 18.86 points. At least it didn't go down. At least it was positive today. By the way, the market went up 263 points the first day of Obama's third year. January 4th, 2011, the stock market went up 263 points. In case you don't know math, which I know a lot of Trump supporters do not, that is 244 points more. 244.14 to be exact. The stock market is still up more in Trump's first 2 years plus 1 day by 320 points over Trump. So if you have a problem with that, then you're deluding yourself again. But I think most of us realize that that is a false narrative, and that the Trump administration is no better for the economy than the Obama administration was. We are out of time for tonight. We will be back tomorrow at 7 o'clock. So I hope everybody has a good night. Until then, I'm Tim Shirer. Have a good night, everybody.